Good morning, everyone. My name is Jose Villegas. I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Human Rights here in Prince George's County, the county's civil and human rights education and enforcement agency. Joining me as a co-host today are Kyla Hannington, our Public Outreach and Engagement Division Manager, and our summer youth student, Michaela Sonway. Welcome you both. OHR in Conversation is a series in which we highlight social justice people, spaces, and places in Prince George's County. It is an honor to have with us Speaker Joseline Peña-Melnyk. Speaker Joseline Peña-Melnyk has dedicated her career to advancing equity, justice, and accessible healthcare for all Marylanders. She has served as member of the House of Delegates since 2006. And in December 2025, her colleagues unanimously elected her as the 109th Speaker of the House. She is the first Afro-Latina in the nation to serve as a presiding legislative officer. Welcome, Speaker Peña-Melnyk.
Yes, good morning. It's such a blessing to be here with you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the work you do.
And thank you. And to get started, can you tell us about yourself and your journey?
I actually was born in the Dominican Republic. Like many immigrants, my family, my mom and my dad came to the U.S., to try to help their family. My mom, they later divorced, so she was a single parent. While they were here, first, my sister and I were in the Dominican Republic with my grandparents. We lived in a tiny little wooden house with cement floor and the roof made out of metal. Sometimes when it would rain, we would run quickly to gather pots and pans to be able to gather the raindrops because the roof had holes. We had a latrine in the back of our house that basically was a hole, and my toilet paper was often, dry corn husk and newspaper. My grandmother cooked her meals in the back of the house, with woods, and that's how she made a fire. So I grew up in poverty, a lot of poverty. Sometimes we didn't have a meal. So that is, that foundation is what has made me the person I am today. When I came to the U.S., my mom was on social services, and I used to go and I was her translator. I knew very little English because I learned English here in the U.S. And my mom struggled. She held many different jobs, and she didn't even study to third grade elementary school. But education was important to her. So I ended up being the first to go to college in my family and graduate from law school as well. It's been quite a journey. I've been very blessed with great people that have helped me, right? And have given me opportunities. And I am very grateful for that.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, one of the things that especially that what you just described, what happened growing up with your grandmother, mom, the experience, it's the story of many of us, right? In the immigrant community, and just you sharing that in what you have become, it gives us it's something that we should be proud of, right? Could you also describe some of that accomplishments that you are most proud of, even as when you started as a delegate? Now, what's those accomplishments be?
So, and thank you for the question. And I'm very proud of you as well, because
Thank
it's
you.
not easy. It's not easy at all. Throughout my career, I have advocated for people who needed my help, right? Starting when I was still a kid, assisting my mom as a translator at the welfare office. And then she would volunteer me to help translate for other people that were waiting. As an adult, I volunteer when I was in law school with one summer with farm workers. I volunteer with survivors of domestic violence. I took one summer and I worked with death row inmates and represented them. Later on in life, represented people that were very poor as a public defender. I have always, looked to improve people's life. And during my 20 years on the health committee in the House, I have worked to increase access to life-saving drugs. I'm the one that sponsored the first ever in the U.S. Prescription Drug Affordability Board that is doing their work as we speak to lower the cost of prescription drugs. I was a sponsor of a bill that created a reinsurance program to keep premiums low in Maryland. And I brought in with that bill $1.2 billion to keep those premiums low. Maryland is one of the states that expanded Medicaid and created our own health exchange. And our uninsured rate during that time was 14%. Today, our uninsured rate is 6%. And I have to say, in a very humble way, I have done a lot of that work. I was the chair of the health committee. I've been on the health committee for 20 years. But I'm also very proud of a legislation that I put in, that it was the first in the nation that established the Maryland Lynching Truth and Reconciliation Commission in Maryland. And I also defended on the floor the Maryland Reparations Commission as well. I also defended Title 10 to protect Planned Parenthood. I also defended on the floor this island girl in a very humble way, the bill that protects transgender individual when applying for housing, looking for employment and credit. So that is, what drives me. It's the civil rights and I believe at my core that everyone deserves respect and dignity. And especially now at this moment where everything that's happening at the federal level is more important than ever for us to meet that moment and to continue that work.
Wow. I really appreciated hearing a bit about your story and really seeing what you were contributing to Maryland and to the country. I would love to talk more about this. I'm a bit sensitive to time, but I do want to talk maybe like what led you. I want to say something actually. I want to give a shout out to one of our colleagues, Anna Lucy, who talks about being a child translator. She is involved in language access in our office, and it's just an amazing powerhouse. And she talks about her commitment to language access stems from her experience being a child translator for her parents. And I wonder if you would like to talk a little bit more about that experience for you, like to me I am an immigrant here, but I'm an English speaking immigrant. I was born in a home that spoke English as I was growing up. And so that is something that I never experienced. My kids never experienced. And I can imagine that it's both feels good to be able to help one's parent, and that there is tremendous pressure on the child to fill this role. Can you speak a bit about that?
Absolutely. When I was translating at the welfare office, I learned about things that an 8-year-old should not be learning.
Yeah.
Okay, I was exposed to conversations that I should not be exposed to. And I learned about how rough life can be. Life is beautiful. We're very blessed. But it also has many ups and downs. And I did not like at all the way it was mostly women, and mostly a lot of women of color were treated, and the way the question was asked, and what was assumed and implied. And at that young age, Kyla, I learned that I never wanted to be treated that way. Yeah. And I learned about what was right and what was wrong. And that, honest to God, my mom used to call me la abogadita, the little lawyer. And I believe I could be a lawyer. Honestly, I tell people, be careful with your words, especially around kids.
Yeah.
And that is how that experience shaped me. It was a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
And then not only did I translate, I had to fill, and I disliked it. And to this day, I do. I dislike filling out applications when I go to the doctor and they give me 5 pages to fill out. I don't know. I have like PTSD because I had to fill them out all the time.
And that's tremendous pressure.
It is. It is. Which is why, as a legislator, I make sure that we pass legislation to provide language access. I make sure that there's money in the budget. And I constantly ask every department, do you have a budget for translation, right? And also, if you have someone that speaks Spanish, that is not why you hire them, unless that was the role that you hire them for, to translate and interpret. You should, your budget is really a reflection of your values. And we should put some money aside for that as well.
I really appreciate that. Your budget is a reflection of your values. We hear this on a personal level, right? At someone's funeral, one of the things you can tell about them is look at their checkbook and where they spent their money. And so I think I love that you're highlighting this in terms of organizations and businesses. Like, what are our values in our institutions?
Absolutely.
I have a question, and I'm going to hand it back to Jose and Mikhail, but this was a question I had before you started speaking, but as you're speaking, I want to get here, which is like, what was it for you that led to that first run for office?
After I was a public defender for a while, a court-appointed lawyer, and then I became a prosecutor with Eric Holder, who was later on became the first African-American attorney general under Obama. And I was a prosecutor when after my last trial lasted 2 weeks, ended on a Friday, the jury came back and convicted. And then I was pregnant, 9 months pregnant. I gave birth on Monday. And I thought my child was going to come out saying, "Objection, Your Honor." I waited till the very last minute. And my husband and I, we decided that I wanted to stay home. And I wanted to stay home for many reasons. And, we made choices. Our first home was a tiny home in a modest neighborhood, right? You make choices so that you can have options in life. And we made the choice so I can stay home. When I stay home, I couldn't just stay home, Kyla. I started doing pro bono work for free. And I started volunteering with different organizations. I became a board member of Casa de Maryland, which is the largest immigrant social services provider in Maryland. And another woman said to me, "You should run for the local city council." And, for women, they have to ask us 7 times before we say yes. That is what, studies say. It's easier for men. And I said, I put all kinds of excuses. And she says, "No, you should go." So her name was Anna Owens. She was the first female. She has passed away. Amazing human being. First female mayor in College Park. So I decided to run because I started getting involved in the local, community issues. And I started fighting for the community, showing up at hearings. So I decided to go ahead and run for the city council because I wanted to be a voice for my community. That was a 2-year term. I served 2 years and then I ran again. So I did 1 year. And then this position for the House of Delegates, the Maryland General Assembly, where you have the House and the Senate and all the laws are created, you run as a ticket. So you have a senator and 3 delegates for every district. And there was an opening. One of the longest serving women at that time, 30-something years, Pauline Menace, was retiring. So I went to the team and I said, "May I be on the team, please? And let me tell you why. I'm a young woman with 2 kids, city council, lawyer, person of color." And I said the district had never been represented by a person of color. And I'm very qualified. But they said no. So they chose someone else. And I went to my husband and I said, "Do you love me?" He says, "That's a stupid question." I said, "Well, I'm not asking you for permission. but I'm going to take some of our money because I want to run for office. So I did, and my kids were like 5 and 6. I have a set of twins. My kids are only 19 months apart. I never do anything easy. Had all 3 in diapers at one point. So at 5 and 6, and my husband and I rented an office, and we were out there at 5:30 in the morning, sign waving. We door knock, recruited volunteers, a lot of young and seniors. And we door knock on more than 10,000 doors, did about 8,000 phone calls, 7 mailings. On election day, we had 125 poll workers. All my friends from all over the world came to help me. There were 9 of us running for 3 seats, wow. And I came in second. So it was a struggle, but God is good, and people are amazing to believe in me, right? Like, I am one where we have 188 legislators in Maryland, 141 delegates, and 47 senators. So to represent out of 6.5 million people in Maryland, I'm one of 41 delegates, and that's such a blessing. And it's something that I don't take for granted. I give this my absolute best. I have not practiced law since I've been there for 20 years because I'm legislating full-time, part-time pay, but 7 days a week. I go to a hospital with a constituent. I go to a nursing home. I just go the extra mile because I know what it's like to struggle. And I come from poverty, and I know that I am the poster child to prove that education is the greatest equalizer. And I believe that everyone should have that opportunity. You know, I was a rough diamond and someone gave me an opportunity. And I don't take it for granted at all.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that.
Thank you for that. That's now let me because we have heard all the things that some of the things that you have done, and we in the community, especially Latino community, we are very proud of you and what your accomplishment. So Maryland is so lucky to have you. Tell us a little bit. I know you mentioned that you grew up and you came to New York, but how we in Maryland were so grateful to have you. Can you tell us about that journey of growing up in New York, relocating to this DMV area? So just if you can. Let's paint a picture of what happened, how we are so blessed.
Thank you so much, and I'm so proud of you as well. So when we came from the Dominican Republic, we ended up in New York City, a community called Washington Heights. If you've seen the movie In the Heights, that was my community. And then we were there for a while. Then my mom, till about 11, my mom sent us back with my grandparents. So I stayed till about 14, came back here. I decided that I wanted to go to college. I have one sister, and we're only actually 11 months apart. She had a baby very young when she was 16, and I knew that I didn't want that. So I decided to go to Buffalo, went to college in Buffalo and law school, and I met my sweetheart when I was 22 years old. And he was my boyfriend, and he was a year ahead of me in law school. He graduated. And then I stayed behind for 1 year. I ended up finding work in Philadelphia. He ended up finding work in DC. And I moved from Philadelphia to DC because I lost my job. I love being a public defender. And Jose, I'm not going to be humble. I was very good because I worked really hard. But I took the bar exam, and English is my second language. And, you're only given a certain amount of time to read those paragraphs and answer the questions. So I didn't pass. And then she gave me another opportunity to take it, and I didn't pass. So I lost my job, had to give up my apartment, and ended up moving in with my boyfriend in DC, which I come from a Catholic family. That's a no-no, but we did it. And I ended up taking the bar exam again. I failed by 1 point, Jose, 1 point. And I wasn't going to take it again. And my boyfriend, which I mentor a lot of young people, I tell them that who you choose in life can make you or break you. He's my biggest cheerleader, and my husband today. We will be married 32 years this year. And he said, "You're going to take it?" And if you decide not to, practice, that's your decision. So I took it and I passed. So I ended up getting the job offer again to go back to Philly. And he asked me to marry him. So I decided to marry him and stay in DC. And that's how I stay in DC and did court appointed work. And then later on as a prosecutor, he worked for the United States Securities and Exchange Commission. And so we ended up working in this area and then ended up moving to Maryland when we had our later on in life, when we were ready to, plan for a family as well. It was more affordable. And that's how I ended up in this area because of my sweetheart.
Okay, thank you for sharing. I'm going to turn it to Michaela so if she has any question.
I also had a similar question about, moving down the East Coast. Like, New York and Maryland are definitely different states in how they make policies and stuff like that. Would you say there's like a big difference between policy making between, New York and Pennsylvania and now in Maryland?
I think Pennsylvania is a little more conservative, right?
Mm-hmm.
New York is similar to Maryland. We're a blue state, solid blue, although Maryland has some purple areas as well. But similarly, the legislation are actually the same. Like when we are legislating, I often ask the library and my staff to look at the bills from New York, in the surrounding jurisdictions as well. New York has a more vibrant Dominican community, right? There aren't that many Dominicans in this area. You have a lot of people from El Salvador and Mexico, and you have some Dominicans, but not a lot. New York has a lot of Dominicans, Puerto Rican. It's just such a mixed, vibrant community. Like when my car hits, the George Washington Bridge, I feel it. It's a different feeling. The smells, the food, everything is so different. But now that we have, our kids are now in their 20s, but when we had children, this was the place for us to have our kids. And it's more affordable than New York as well. I could never have a little house like the one we have in New York. I don't have anything fancy, but New York is expensive, right? And living here has allowed me to go after what's in my soul and represent people and fight for human rights. And I could not do that over there.
Being that you're like saying that you have had more community in New York, do you feel like community is very important when you're like creating policies and things like that?
It is important. Like there's more people of Dominican descent in New York, but I have a community in Maryland. I've been very blessed to have great neighbors and friends that are my ride or die, okay? And that help me and have helped me throughout my journey. And a lot of them participate in the legislative process. Many of the bills that we introduce do not come from us. They come from people like you. They come from different departments, lobbyists, Usually a bill is introduced to fix something. They come from problems. And a lot of them come from my community.
As we started at the beginning of the conversation, I'm noting that you are the Speaker of the House of Delegates. So just how do you feel do you feel a weight of that position, especially being the first Latina, the Afro-Latina holding the position, the transition from the first African-American speaker to the first Afro-Latina? Is this a weight that you feel that holding that position?
I have been in the legislature 20 years. I have been a very active member of the Black Caucus for 20 years and the Latino Caucus for at least 10 years. It is a tremendous responsibility because I don't want to be the last person of color in that position. And Speaker Jones was the first woman of color and the first woman, but she has left her shoes, in the right direction for me, and I'm following them. she gave me opportunities. So my elevation to speaker comes with a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of power, but I also need to be very careful. But it also means that I need to be very mindful of providing opportunities for others, but also I help set the agenda in the House as well. So when I said earlier that our budget, which is over $70 billion, and it has to be approved in both houses, the governor puts it forward, but we have to approve it. I have to make sure that that budget reflects the values of our house. And I have to make sure that I am fair and equitable with every community. I represent gorgeous Prince George's and Anne Arundel in the 21st District, but there's also many areas like Western Maryland, the Eastern Shore, that have people, marginalized communities, and people that need help, that need access to care. And I need to be mindful of that as well. So, as speaker, there's never a dull moment. I never been busier in my life, Jose. The demands on my time, all the people who want to meet and talk to me, it never stops. But, I'm very fortunate because I love meeting people. I love hearing their stories and finding ways to help them. If I didn't, I would never have gotten into politics. But I'm not going to lie. I am tired a lot of time. And during the session, I was tired most of the time. But it is worth it because doing this work is incredibly rewarding. And I have a great team of people in my office, and my colleagues are amazing human beings. They really are.
What was the feeling when that, I believe it was early week in December, when what was the feeling when you were notified, or I don't know how it happened, I mean, in terms of the notification, that somebody kind of contacted you, met with you and say, we are supporting you for the speakership. What was the feeling at that moment? Either way it happened, face to face or text, how?
I wish it happened that way, but it doesn't. We found out early December that the speaker was stepping down from the speakership. And we found out on a Thursday at 3:00 in the afternoon. And I think it was 3:00 in the afternoon, and in a meeting for leadership. And then during that meeting, we found out that 4 of us were interested in running for it. You have to run for it, and you have to get the majority of your caucus. So the Democratic caucus is 102 members, 39 Republicans, for a total of 141 delegates. So you first have to get the nomination of your caucus, the majority, and then you have to go to the floor and be voted on by everyone, all 141. So basically, I was running and 3 other people. And the chair of the Black Caucus was running. My colleague were Black Caucus members. And the chair of the Appropriations Committee, the chair of the Economic Matters Committee was running, and myself, chair of the Health Committee. And you have to immediately start working it, making calls and calling your colleagues and ask them to support you and give them reasons why. And you're competing with the other 3 people that are running. And I basically put together a small group of people that loved and supported me in the legislature, my colleagues, other delegates, and they started making calls with me. I was on the phone nonstop to 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. On Saturday, it was a Thursday. Friday, I was on the phone nonstop. Saturday, I didn't even shower. I was calling all day. By Sunday, I have already secured, the support of the other 3 people that were running. So you have to do it really fast. And then we came together and they voted for me. And then we went to the floor. And I actually asked one of the Republicans, who's a friend, to second my nomination. And he did. So it was bipartisan and it was unanimous.
Thank you for sharing that. It's interesting because we might hear what happens in the news, but it's nice to hear it from you what actually happened and how the work that you had to put in, and not necessarily just the work, but the relationship that you have established throughout these 20 years, and the legislation has helped. Kyla, Michaela, do you have any questions? If not, I'll.
Oh, I've one. Oh, Michaela, go ahead. Michaela, please.
You, Miss, I'm sorry, Joseline, you speak a lot about like community and the importance of having community, being able to, get this, what should I say? Get this platform, having a good relationship with the people that you work with, and like having a good relationship with the communities that you work for. And I just wanted, and you said how you're very busy, and I just wanted to know, like, how do you kind of go about trying to solve problems that a community comes to you for, being that you work for the state. So I know there's a lot on your plate, and there's many people coming to you for many different problems, and I know that can be very overbearing. So how would you say that you kind of go about figuring like that problem? Yeah.
So, I have been very intentional about my leadership style. With everything that's happening at the federal level, right, where there's such division in this country, I told my body that we're going to agree to disagree respectfully, right? And we're going to be civil. The leadership I prefer is a leadership that is diverse and collaborative, right? That brings everyone together to the table, especially people that have not always had a seat at the table. So the way I go about working on problems is that I first identify what the problem is. What are we trying to fix here? Then I did that even when I was a chair of the committee and a subcommittee chair as well. And I bring everyone to the table. I decide who needs to be at the table, right? Let's sit down and let's listen, because you're given 2 ears and 1 mouth. And sometimes we just got to listen, right? And I was not always this way, right? I'm not the person I was 20 years ago or even a year ago. But I have become more intentional about that. And we are all sitting down, decide what is the problem? How can we solve it? Who do we need at the table, right? And it means that sometimes we all have to give a little to make sure that the solution comes about. So my job being a legislator is to connect people with other government agencies, right? And with nonprofits to try to find solutions as well. Because when people call my office, Michaela, they're overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed. They can't even make a simple phone call, right? And people call my office for all kinds of problems, whether their kid is being bullied in school, whether they're being evicted in a week or so, right? Whether, they having a problem with their insurance, or they can't find a doctor, or they don't have money for school, all kinds of issues. So I have to process that, think about who can help me solve that problem. But I have staff as well. I have a chief of staff for the district. I have a chief of staff, a speaker, and people that help me connect people to, the agency or person that can help them solve the problem. On the weekend, sometimes I do it myself. If I see that the email comes, I called it. For example, 2 weeks ago, I got a call that there was a woman with 6 children that was evicted and was living in a church. And that Saturday, I called the Department of Human Services because I have the numbers for the secretary, right? and the people, and I call, and they were able to immediately get in and help that woman and her kids. So I'm blessed that I can do that, right? That I am able to make that call and help people.
I think working with OHR, like I've grown so much respect for people who work with people when they're at their lowest, like being that person at the end of the phone when somebody's like truly going through
That's right.
probably the worst events in their life. Like you guys truly do make a difference, and it's very heartwarming, and I'm very thankful to be able to work with people and get to know what's actually behind, being able to help people with their problems.
And thank you for doing it and for your interest. Because you know what, Michaela, you're the future. You're the reason why I do what I do. You're the reason why I fight for human rights, to make sure that we preserve those rights and democracy, especially right now. Okay, you are it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I know, Kyla, I know you have a question. Let me ask this one to follow up. But I do also have another question before we end today. Now, Michaela just asked a question about in terms of the work that you do, how much, especially connecting the people. You mentioned how much work that you have to do now. What does the speaker do in order to distress or relax a little bit? It'd be interesting to know, because all these responsibilities that you have.
Yeah, I don't do enough, and I'm going to be honest. I think that it's important, especially no disrespect women. We need to learn to find as well. But yesterday I actually spent time with some friends, and it was kind of nice to just take the time to do that. I like music. I love listening to music. It's really I just love it. It relaxes me. I like going for walks. I like spending time with my family, spending time with friends, having a good meal. But I need to do better. I honestly do. It's just that, God, I'm like the first, and I want to really leave that door open. And I want to make sure that we have agencies and chief of staff and legislative directors that represent the community as well. And I don't want to waste the time, but I know I need to do better at taking care of myself as well. And I know my family tells me that all the time, and my friends. So I am working at that, and I promise I will. I am going to do that. It just has been an amazing journey since December. I came in, got sworn in December. We took on the veto overrides, did my swearing in, and then we did the veto override for the reparations commission, right? That I had defended on the floor. Then we came back in January, and we had to take on, the utility relief bill to help people with their utility bills. And then we took on all the immigration bills to ban masking in our state for law enforcement, right? The Trust Act and criminal justice bills, the budget. And then we had an election. June 3rd, we have primaries, and now we have the general in November. And it's just been an intense year with very little time to really be. But I am going to plan on doing that before the next session, God willing.
So let me, we were planning to ask some questions about the immigration thing. Thank you for mentioning that, because it's very important, especially in the area that it's the large number of Latino residents in the state, right? But not just Latino, but immigrants from around the world that's being targeted. But let me ask this question as time is running. It's what Speaker Peña-Melnyk what do you want your legacy to be when that times come that you have to kind of make the decision? I done a lot as the speaker, probably need to step. What is the legacy that you would like to leave behind?
I think I like to leave a legacy that show that I was a fair, equitable, inclusive leader, someone who made a difference to improve people's life in the state of Maryland, someone who got behind bills that really you can measure the difference. Like, for example, Black women have the maternal mortality rate for Black women is 4 times higher than their white counterparts, right? I put in a bill that requires implicit bias training for all healthcare providers, right? I want to be able to see that that made a difference, right? I put in bills to reduce premiums and create access to care. I want to know that people have access to care. You know, I want to make sure that people will say, well, you know, she did a great job and she created a lot of opportunities for people and made a difference. So that when someone, Jose, sees a young girl like me, right, with you know, the curly hair, the big eyes, right, with the accent, that they won't overlook someone like her, that they will say, you know what, let me give her an opportunity. Because I think that everyone, no matter where you come from, can do amazing things if they're giving an opportunity, if someone pours into them. So I hope my legacy is one of a person that was kind and civil and fair.
Thank you, Kyla.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. And I know that your time is precious. And for those people watching, the speaker joined us having come from a radio program and is on her way to another meeting, and just the work that you're doing for our community, for our state, and really for the country, because it's all a ripple, is profound. So I really want to thank you for everything that you're doing. And I guess if I can squeeze in one more question, and I want to be sensitive to time, so answer it as quickly as you'd like. One of the things I want to hear, and I'm hoping that our viewers can hear from you, is how can we be better civic participants? Because we're hearing what you're doing. What can we do for you? What can we do for our neighbors?
You know, I think that especially now with what's happening in this country, where we're losing our civil rights, where the Supreme Court said it was okay to racial profile us, Black and brown people, where there's no respect for all 3 branches of government, no respect for the Constitution. And women, we have lost our rights, right? Like the right to reproductive freedom is now left up to the states. Thank God we live in Maryland. I think that it is important for us to get involved. Please don't complain. I don't want to hear it. You know, go to a protest, go to a march, write a letter to your legislator, go and testify on one of the bills in Annapolis or in Capitol Hill, contribute to someone's campaign, phone bank for someone who's running, door knock for someone that's running. There's no excuse for you to get involved. You want to look back from now, 10 years from now, and say, what did I do to preserve democracy? What did I do to fight for our freedom? Where so many other people like Martin Luther King and others lost their lives to fight for us, and we take it for granted. Don't stay at home. There's too much at stake. You can make a difference.
Thank you so much. That was just perfect. Contribute. I mean, that is really a contribute. We all have something to contribute and to do it. We are out of time. We want to make sure that we're respectful of your time, Madam Speaker. So thank you so much. It has been honestly just such an honor to get to speak with you. I'll say we've had some comments. I've been getting some texts on my personal phone from people that I know who are watching, who are just overcome with your story and what you're sharing. And so thank you so much for all that you are doing and being for us. For those who are watching, whether you're watching live or you're tuning in on demand later to hear from the speaker, thank you for choosing to spend your time with us. We really appreciate it. And we hope that you will see you at other events of ours. You can learn more about our office. Go to civilrights.mypgc.us and learn more about the Office of Human Rights as well as upcoming events we have for you. We really want to encourage you at this time, which is heavy. The speaker talked about this. We feel like we have so little control. We really encourage you to keep doing what you're doing and to contribute. Like, I really love what the speaker has said here, and we hope that you take that away with you, that there is a way that you can step up. I'm sure we know lots of people already doing that, but I love this, get on a phone bank, volunteer for a campaign, write a letter, take to the streets, that you yourself right now sitting at home listening, you have something to offer. So thank you everyone for being here today. And Speaker Peña-Melnyk, it really has been an honor and delight. Thank you.
Well, the feeling is mutual. Thank you for your time. Your time is as valuable as mine and people that are at home and will listen to it later as well. And know that I am fighting for you and everyone else. And it takes all of us. So thank you for the work that the commission does, because it's important. Stay blessed.
Thank you. So long, everyone.